What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to our Bible study. Okay, so for Numbers chapter 6, it looks like the majority of it is going to be about Nazirite laws, which, other than it being like a special kind of subgroup, I'm not even 100% sure what that means. I think it'll get a little bit into that in this chapter. But, yeah. I guess we're still kind of talking more procedures and preparing the people to go to the promised land in that way here in chapter 6. But anyway, all right, let's get to it. Numbers chapter 6. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Give the following instructions to the people of Israel. If any of the people, either men or women, take the special vow of a Nazirite, setting themselves apart to the Lord in a special way, they must give up wine and other alcoholic drinks. They must not use vinegar made from wine or from other alcoholic drinks. They must not drink fresh grape juice, and they must not eat grapes or raisins. As long as they are bound by their Nazirite vow, they are not allowed to eat or drink anything that comes from a grapevine, not even the grape seeds or skins." Okay. So such things were allowed for most of the Israelites, but it still hasn't really explained yet. I mean, it says people who do this are setting themselves apart to the Lord in a special way, but it isn't really made clear what the purpose of being set apart in such a way is. But, I at least get the sense that it might be similar to, becoming a monk or a nun or some other similar kind of notion where you go beyond what is absolutely necessary for your belief system and you place even further restrictions and requirements upon yourself, just as a way of trying to get yourself closer to usually God, but whatever the core of your religious belief system might be, because I did also mention monks. But anyway, it's moving along. Verse 5. They must never cut their hair throughout the time of their vow, for they are holy and set apart to the Lord. Until the time of their vow has been fulfilled, they must let their hair grow long, and they must not go near a dead body during the entire period of their vow to the Lord. Even if the dead person is their own father, mother, brother, or sister, they must not defile themselves, for the hair on their head is the symbol of their separation to God. This requirement applies as long as they are set apart to the Lord. So, I mean, other than the high priest, I don't think even most of the priests had that restriction. I mean, like, the high priest was not allowed to touch dead bodies of anybody either, but I think the normal priests who, were not the high priest, were still allowed to, touch, bury, and all that, like, immediate family members. But this is an even further restriction than that. In addition to the whole no grape products, which that restriction has not applied to any previous subset of the Israelites. But anyway, moving along to verse 9, I guess. If someone falls dead beside them, the hair they have dedicated will be defiled. They must wait for 7 days and then shave their heads. Then they will be cleansed from their defilement. On the 8th day, they must bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons to the priest at the entrance of the tabernacle. The priest will offer one of the birds for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. In this way, he will purify them from the guilt they incurred through contact with the dead body. Then they must reaffirm their commitment and let their hair begin to grow again. The days of their vow that were completed before their defilement no longer count. They must rededicate themselves to the Lord as a Nazirite for the full term of their vow, and each must bring a 1-year-old male lamb for a guilt offering. So, this was almost as if God were anticipating, like, okay, we're not supposed to touch dead bodies, but what if somebody, like, just drops dead next to us? It's right there. If somebody falls dead beside them. So, and then the offering procedure sounds kind of similar to, I guess, I don't know if it was specifically if the priests touched a dead body or maybe like if anybody touched a dead body, but just add on the whole shaving their heads thing, and rededicating themselves. But it sounds familiar. So, I mean, it's not surprising, though, that they would essentially have to follow one of the procedures mentioned previously, as well as kind of have to rededicate themselves, I guess. Footnotes, tentative meeting, where it says tabernacle, and instead of purify, it could be make atonement for. But, okay, so fairly strict regulations for the Nazirites already. And this is, of course, on top of the normal laws and things like that the Israelites were supposed to follow. So some of this is sounding kind of comparable to the priests, maybe even the high priest. So it sounds like a pretty serious thing, just in general. But anyway, I digress. Moving on to verse 13. This is the ritual law for Nazirites. At the conclusion of their time of separation as Nazirites, they must each go to the entrance of the tabernacle and offer their sacrifices to the Lord. A 1-year-old male lamb without defect for a burnt offering. A 1-year-old female lamb without defect for a sin offering. A ram without defect for a peace offering. A basket of bread made without yeast. Cakes of choice flour mixed with olive oil and wafers spread with olive oil, along with their prescribed grain offerings and liquid offerings. The priest will present these offerings before the Lord. First the sin offering and the burnt offering. Then the ram for a peace offering, along with the basket of bread made without yeast. The priest must also present the prescribed grain offering and liquid offering to the Lord. So this is just kind of the wrap up, hey, your time of dedication is done. This sounds almost like it would be more of like a honorable ceremony kind of thing, but all the offerings are like, it's guilt, sin. So I don't know if that was maybe supposed to cover, any forgotten or unintentional sins committed during their time as Nazirites. I mean, that could make some sense. but also just end of Nazirite time ceremony. Because, I mean, you gotta have something to mark that occasion, I guess. Anyway, verse 18. Then the Nazirites will shave their heads at the entrance of the tabernacle. They will take the hair that has been dedicated and place it on the fire beneath the peace offering sacrifice. After the Nazirite's head has been shaved, the priest will take for each of them the boiled shoulder of the ram, and he will take from the basket a cake and a wafer made without yeast. He will put them all into the Nazirite's hands, and the priest will lift them up as a special offering before the Lord. These are holy portions for the priest, along with the breast of the special offering and the thigh of the sacred offering that are lifted up before the Lord. After this ceremony, the Nazirites may again drink wine. This is the ritual law of the Nazirites, who vow to bring these offerings to the Lord. They may also bring additional offerings if they can afford it. And they must be careful to do whatever they vowed when they set themselves apart as Nazirites. So, that last bit there in verse 21 makes it sound almost kind of similar to if you were going to maybe give up something for Lent, or even commit to doing something additional for Lent, or whatever. Which, by the way, it is currently Lent. So, if you didn't know that, it's basically supposed to talk about... It's supposed to represent, like, the 40 days leading up to Easter Sunday, because there was a lot of stuff that happened in Jesus' life throughout that time period, approximately. And so, as sort of preparation for the sorrow of Good Friday, but then also the joy and celebration of Easter, it's somewhat common for people to give up, or at least try to give up, a particular habit or food item, or even like add additional prayer or something like that to their schedules during Lent. But anyway, I digress. Just kind of trying to draw a comparison here. So, like, it seems almost like the Nazirite vow isn't always just like there's one particular goal in mind, other than obviously like increased closeness to the Lord, for lack of a better way to put it. But it seems like there could be a variety of reasons to take the vow. It's just, in addition to that vow, there are the restrictions of no grape products and no touching dead people. And then when it's all done, there's a bunch of offerings to be made. It still doesn't even explain the time period, which maybe there isn't a set time period for it. Maybe it's just like, oh, okay, I want to make a particular habit and build that habit of, of prayer or of doing a certain thing to get closer to God. And then once they've kind of satisfied that thing that they're aiming for, then they make all these sacrifices that have been discussed. That's just the impression that I get. If anybody has any other information on Nazirite vows and what exactly those mean, please let me know. More information is always helpful. But anyway, So, just a few more verses to wrap up the chapter then. Verse 22. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron and his sons to bless the people of Israel with this special blessing. May the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord smile on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord show you his favor and give you his peace. Whenever Aaron and his sons bless the people of Israel in my name, I myself will bless them." Okay, bit of a side note. This particular blessing, or at least like a version of it, maybe from a different translation, is one that I recall being used quite a bit. It seems to be something that some pastors like to quote and or use for their, like, doxology kind of bit, like right when they're about to wrap up the, Sunday service. But anyway, enough about that. So, because of Aaron and his sons, the priests, being representatives of God to the Israelites, I'd say that's really where verse 27 makes sense. Because they're supposed to represent God, so if they're giving the people a particular blessing, it makes sense that would then be a blessing God gives them. Because then it calls into question whether or not they're even representing God. But anyway, yeah, I suppose that about wraps it up for the chapter. It makes it seem like the people are going to leave for the Promised Land really soon, but it has felt like that before, so not counting on it. Okay, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell to get updates when I post new videos. Look down in the description to get info on other social media pages and all that good stuff. And leave comments below there with any thoughts you have. So that's it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you for the next video. But until then, stay cool, people.